All right, we are officially recording. All right, thank you everyone for attending tonight's webinar. I know everybody is busy and has competing priorities, which is a little bit of a theme when you talk about fundraising as well. I appreciate you making the time, and we are going to keep this strictly to an hour. We will not go over an hour, so we appreciate you spending this time with us. So as far as the webinar goes, everyone is muted for today's discussion. That's just to ensure minimal distractions and that we can move through the content. We have the ability for you to ask questions on the right-hand side of the screen, so please make sure that you look for the little, you can raise your hand or you can use a little bubble to ask any questions. You have the option of whether to send your question privately to one of us on the organizer side or to the entire audience. So just make sure you choose that appropriately. And then we will hold off and answer all of the questions at the end of the session. And as I said, we are going to be really mindful of your time and keep you just to an hour. So if we aren't able to get to all of the questions, we will follow up with you tomorrow with anything that may not have been able to be addressed today. So a quick hello. The faces that you see on this screen, with the exception of one, are the people who are on the call here tonight to offer you some guidance and some insight into the fundraising. My name is Molly. I'm in the upper left-hand corner with a little Irish cap on. That's my mom, who is next to me. Liz is on the other side of me. She is our Dallas coach. Stacy is bottom left, our San Diego coach, and Susan on the line as well, thank you, since she is in Atlanta and it's a little late for her. But we want to just run through really quickly just our fundraising history and what gives us the ability to talk with you with any bit of authority on fundraising. I have been involved in working on the 3-day. I've been very fortunate to be working on this event since 2002. And I started out as a spectator. My mom was diagnosed with breast cancer in 1999, and my sister did the very first New York 3-day while my mom was doing her chemo and radiation. And so I started out as a spectator, then a volunteer the next year. I walked in my first 3-day in 2001 and had such an amazing experience that I really wanted to work for the company. And so I feel very fortunate to have been able to follow that as my career path. In 2004, I lost my father to esophageal cancer. And just about 4 years ago, I found an event called Cycle for Survival, and they raise money for rare cancer research. And it sort of felt like, since I spend most of my days doing stuff in the breast cancer arena, I wanted to do something with my fundraising that was more towards what had happened with my father. So I've been involved in that event for 4 years, and the past couple of years I've decided to do a little, I wouldn't say creative, but sort of stressful, but definitely trying to branch out with how I do my fundraising as an ability to really kind of test some things to be able to then take it back to people like you to share with you how it's worked. And so last year I set a goal to see if I could raise $10,000 in 10 days, and I exceeded that goal. And this year I decided to see if I could raise $13,000 in 15 days, because if I had raised $13,000, then my 4-year total for this event would have been at $40,000. And so I basically don't make these decisions until about 2 weeks or so before the event, so that's why I have fewer days in order to be able to do it. So I have recent experience with trying to raise a lot of money in a short period of time, which is where the thought process for this webinar came from. We did this webinar a couple of times in July, but we now know that there are some of you whose events are coming up in a week and a half or in 3.5 weeks or 2.5 weeks, and so this content is really applicable to people who still have a fundraising minimum to meet for our Dallas or San Diego events. So that's a little bit about my fundraising history. Liz, I'd love to turn it over to you to talk a little bit about your fundraising and 3-day participation history.
Perfect. I'm Liz. I am the coach for Dallas. I have actually walked 7 times, and I've been a crew member 11 times, and I've raised close to $28,000. Even as a crew member, I focus on fundraising because this cause is important to me. I usually focus all of my fundraising on letters, emails, and then I also use Facebook posts and private messages. And that's where my fundraising has been from. That's my goal and what I do.
Thank you, Liz. Stacy, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining the call. I am Stacy, the San Diego coach, and I'm also a 4-time 3-day participant. I've raised over $10,000 under my name and also have participated many times with other family members, so twice with my older daughter and once side by side with my husband, who's a 5-time participant. So we have a lot of experience with fundraising as a family, usually starting with a traditional letter and email campaign, but we've done some really fun fundraising events as well that have been successful.
Thank you, Stacy. And Susan.
Hi, I am the Atlanta coach. I am a 4-time 3-day walker and a 2-time crew member. I'm walking my 5th 3-day this year. I started walking in 2007 in memory of a dear friend of mine, and I have raised, this number is almost outdated, I've raised nearly $25,000. Now this includes last week, and I raised almost $2,000 within about 3 days, trying to reach my $5,000 goal that I set for fundraising for this year.
What I love about this is like for any of you who have been on events, when we do recognition at Camp Show and Dr. Shri is up there and then people get up there and they're like, no, I did this, because so much changes in such a short period of time, and Susan is a perfect example of that. So I will update this to make sure your fundraising history is accurate, but that's wonderful, and that is also why I begged Susan at 9:30 on a Tuesday night to join us for this, because her recent fundraising history is so relevant to what we want to encourage you and also inspire you all to feel confident in doing. 3 quick things before we dive into the meat of this. We want to help you succeed. There is a team of people who work on this event. There are 14 between local and participant support coaches who are available on the phone, via email, on event, and our job is to help make sure that you succeed. The purpose of today's webinar is to give you individual fundraising advice, and I have that italicized because when we did this webinar in July, we had people who had asked specifically about fundraising events or about team fundraising, and this is really what you as an individual can do to help raise a lot of money in a short period of time. As I said, we're going to be relying on some of the fundraising techniques and really just the process that has worked for me to get to and exceed my goal. And some of it does require you to step a little bit outside of your comfort zone. We're not asking anybody to do anything crazy or encouraging you to do anything crazy, but when it comes to asking for money, we know that that in and of itself requires some people to step far, far outside of their comfort zone. As I said, your coach is the best fundraising resource you have. Every single coach on the 3-day project has been a 3-day participant or is currently a 3-day participant, and I think it's one of the most unique aspects of what we have to offer our participants is that you are interacting with, in person, over the phone, on event, at meetings, someone who has walked the walk, literally. And we also have the benefit of having coached thousands of participants who have raised millions of dollars. And so the well is really deep in terms of what we can offer you in terms of suggestions that will help you create an individual fundraising plan. And most of us have been working on this project for a really long time. So while we've accumulated a lot of knowledge, we also have the benefit of learning new things every single day from our participants. So just a plug for your coach. It's really one of the best fundraising resources that you have. And third, I will be the cheerleader on today's call to tell you that you absolutely can do this. You know, if you're doing Dallas, if you're doing San Diego, you have the ability to reach your goal, to raise your $2,300 fundraising minimum and go beyond that if that's what you want to do. We have had the benefit of having done this fundraising webinar in July and hearing specifically from people who have said that they have tried some of these tactics and that it has worked for them. I had a participant stop me on the Seattle event who I'd never met before, and she said, I just wanted to tell you I watched your fundraising webinar and it was so helpful. And I, first of all, like, it's kind of like when you're wearing a name tag and someone calls your name, but I was like, how in God's name did you know who I was? And then I remembered that there are photos of me in this presentation. But I was still very impressed that she was able to pick me out on events. But I totally believe that you can do this, and you have a team of people, as I said before, who are here to help make sure that that's possible. So getting into things, fundraising advice that works. A couple of reminders that I always like to give people, especially those of you who may not be very comfortable with fundraising. Some of you on this call may not have a problem with fundraising. You may have been doing this event for a long time, or you may have been doing other fundraising events. But for some of you, we recognize that fundraising and asking for money is uncomfortable. No one is going to give away their last dollar. They're just not going to do it. They're also not going to donate anything more than they're comfortable giving. While we will be recommending that you ask for a specific amount of money, no one's going to give you more than they're able to give. You may ask for $50 and you'll likely get a bunch of $25 donations. Same thing if you ask for $100, you're likely going to get a lot of $50 donations. But remember that people are only going to give what they're comfortable giving. I'm asked a lot for donations. I think a lot of us who work in this fundraising space are asked a lot because we know people who do a lot of these events. I most times can't give people what they're asking for because my donations are stretched across about 20 to 25 people throughout any given year. So while I would love to give more, I can only give a certain amount. But I still give because I'm asked, which is the important part. The other thing just to keep in mind is that everyone is busy. They have competing priorities, as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, and reminders are more helpful than you know. I know, again, if it's something you're uncomfortable with, reminders may seem like a burden, but it's a gift to people who want to be able to support you and just have so many other things going on in their life that this has fallen off of their radar or off the top of their to-do list. So, setting yourself up for fundraising success. Share your personal story. It's so important. I'm going to get into this in a little bit, but make sure that you are comfortable with sharing your personal story. And sometimes, you know, we've talked to people who say they don't have a personal connection to the cause, so they don't feel like their story is very compelling. And I always say that's absolutely not true because it's so compelling to want to do something like this when you don't have a personal connection. I also think many of us know it's very rare to not have a personal connection to the cause at this point, but whatever your reason is for participating, being able to articulate what your personal story is very important to getting people to engage with what you need them to do, which is to make a donation. Ask for a specific and meaningful amount. It's really important to give people that guidance of what it is that you need, and it's also really important to let them know when you actually need that. Anyone who's on this call, by the very nature of most likely doing Dallas or San Diego, you have a built-in short deadline because your event is happening in a week and a half or 2.5 weeks. And so your deadline is based on Friday of your event week. You may choose to have a shorter deadline, and again, like that's what I would do. I would tell people my event is in 2 weeks, but I actually want to raise the rest of my money in a week. Again, giving people a shorter deadline makes it more likely that it's going to stay top of mind for them and not be something that falls to the bottom of their to-do list or that falls out of their email inbox. On top of asking for a specific and meaningful amount, set a challenging and meaningful goal. Susan will talk a little bit about that later when she talks a little bit about her own fundraising success with putting out a challenge to her community about her goal. But we're surrounded by people who really want to see us succeed, and I found with my crazy goals of trying to raise $10,000 in 10 days or trying to raise $13,000 in 15 days or whatever it is, that people really get tied into wanting to see my progress and helping me get to that goal. So it's really helpful to get people engaged in what that is. And then, as I've said before already, I know we've only been on the phone for a few minutes and I'm repeating myself, but it's to really hit the point home. But we all need to be willing to work for the goal. And I think oftentimes when our fundraising stalls, it's because we get comfortable with where we're at, or we sort of resign ourselves a little bit to, like, I've already asked everyone I know, and if they wanted to donate, they would have donated by now. But oftentimes when we talk to people who feel like they've done everything they can, we find out that they haven't sent any fundraising reminders because people already know that they're participating. But again, people are busy, and the reminders are everything that people need to really move on what you're asking them to do. So here are 5 things just to kind of set yourself up, and we're going to dive into this a little bit more. Why do people donate? People donate to you because they love you. It's one of the things that I love the most about this type of fundraising. We call it peer-to-peer fundraising because you are asking on behalf of an event. You're asking other people to donate to you. So you're asking your peers to support something that's really important to you. And I have found throughout my own participation in events like this that it's just such an overwhelmingly heartwarming experience to see how the people in my life come together to support me just because they love me. People also donate because you're doing something that most of the time they have absolutely no interest in doing themselves. My sister right now is training to walk the event in San Diego, and she has been walking. She's been doing a very good job with her training, which I'm very impressed about. And she sees people like at 7 o'clock in the morning who then see her at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like just finishing her walk, and they're amazed at the amount of time that she's putting into her training and how dedicated she is to getting in that mileage. And a lot of time, what she's heard from a lot of people is, you're doing, like, I'm doing the easy part. I'm writing a check or going online to make a donation. Like, you're doing all of the work. And that's true. People also donate to you because they've been personally impacted and they want to do something, and your participation provides them with an opportunity to do just that. I think for those of us who have been personally impacted by cancer, or for those of us who have done this event before, it certainly rings true that we oftentimes feel helpless when the people we love are diagnosed with breast cancer. And there are certain things, of course, that you can do. You can make meals. You can go and sit with someone who's getting treatment. You can send them little packages, during times that they're going through treatment and stuff like that. But participating in an event like this is something really huge that you can do to show your support of someone who has been impacted by breast cancer. And your participation gives people the opportunity to feel like they too are doing something for the people in their life. And then last, why do people donate? They donate because you ask. We talk a lot in our fundraising materials and on the website about like the golden rule of fundraising, which is you get money when you ask for it and you don't get money when you don't ask for it. It's really important to make sure that you're actually asking someone to support you. We'll talk a little bit about that when we discuss the social media and specifically Facebook fundraising. Just because you're putting a post up there doesn't actually mean that you're asking people. But remember that people donate because you ask. I just had a conversation with a colleague of mine who said that they didn't donate because they were never asked. And I feel that way myself sometimes. I don't get asked, but some people want to make sure that they get that ask. What's worked for me, again, is making it personal. When you're asking someone for money, it's really important that they feel really connected to and understand why this is so important to you. I mentioned this at the beginning of making it personal, but when you provide people with that insight, it really helps them feel connected to why you would be, in their mind, sometimes crazy enough to walk 60 miles over the course of 3 days. But it's important that you let them know exactly why you're doing this, why it's important to you, why you're choosing to walk 60 miles. As I said, there's a lot of donation requests that are coming through for all of us. Your donation request, your personal story, it's the very thing that makes it stand out. I received a fundraising request from someone just a couple weeks ago, and she did a very good job. She also included flattery, which definitely works. But she so personalized the ask just to me that I knew that there was no way that she had done a copy and paste, which I just really appreciated that this was so important to her that she took the time to put things in there that only applied to the two of us, and really personalized it for her communication specifically to me. I use social media as a last resort. We'll talk about this a little bit later in the presentation about Facebook and fundraising, especially since, again, there's such a short amount of time between the Dallas and San Diego events at this point. It's going to be really helpful for you if you are on Facebook. But again, like when someone is asking me for money, I want to know why they're doing it. I want to know what they're doing, why they're doing it, why it's important to them, why I should give money to them, how much they need and when they need it by. And you can't do that as effectively. You can do it, but you can't do it as effectively on social media or on Facebook. So I use it as a last resort. It's okay, as I say, to ask people via Facebook and other social channels, but don't rely on it as your main source of fundraising. People deserve that personal ask. And again, you're going to be far more successful if you do personalize your efforts, because you can't rely on who's paying attention and following you on social media. Not that I'm at all like a social media engineer, but they seem to change the algorithms and all of the logic for what actually shows up in a news feed all the time. So you can't rely on that either. Asking everyone you know. I ask every single person that I know, and I really meet every single person. I actually just went to the dentist yesterday, no cavities by the way, but the dentist, when he saw me, he had asked me if I needed to be sponsored again, and I love that he associates that with me. But I told him I would be hitting him up early next year when I gear back up to do my fundraising again. But it was the first time that I'd reached out to like my doctors and my dentists and stuff like that. I did that for the first time this past year, and it was really sweet. Never make a decision for a potential donor. You want to make sure that you are asking everyone, even if their own life circumstance seems like they don't have the money. Or I had a couple of people earlier this year who were in between jobs, and they have been supporting my ride for 3 years, and I really hesitated on whether I was going to ask them or not, and I truly had a conversation with myself of needing to take my own advice. And one of my friends gave half the amount that she gave the year before, and my other friend gave me more than she gave me the year before. But it was a good reminder to me of making sure that I don't make that decision for other people and let them determine what's important to them and where they want to spend their money. My friend, she had even said, I think like the week before, we were going to make plans for dinner, and she bailed on that. So I really was like, I don't know if I should do this. But it's a good reminder that we shouldn't be making decisions for people in our life about that kind of stuff. I ask by sending an individual request to each person. I send it out via email. I send it out via actual mail when necessary. That would be to my grandparents and to my father-in-law. But I send an individual email similar to what I was saying about my friend Melissa, who had sent me a fundraising request last week. I use it as an opportunity to really personalize it and to include something specific to each individual. Sometimes I do get myself into trouble because I'll tell you in a little bit how many people I reached out to this past year, and so I do a copy and paste, but I try to make sure that I'm changing out specific information, and sometimes I get myself into trouble and don't change the information like I'm supposed to. But I make sure that I send everybody an individual request because I do personalize it. I even get down to personalize how much money I ask from people. So especially for those of you who have done the event before, when I figure out what my goal is, I oftentimes ask people to give me a little bit more than they gave me the year before. So sending it out via email individually allows me that opportunity to personalize that. Being specific, I ask for a specific amount. My own fundraising history has shown that people are far likelier to give what you ask for. I put all of my data in Excel and do all sorts of charts, and I'm going to show you just in a minute how much of a geek I am. But I do ask for a specific amount. I find that it really helps people give that guidance, and again, it helps me when I'm trying to reach a specific goal. Remember, they're not going to give more than what they can, so if you're hesitant to ask for a specific amount, just remember that you may ask for $100 and people may only be able to give you 75 or 50, but if you had asked for 25, that's what you're going to get. So I always recommend that people aim a little bit higher than what they may think. My sister, as I said, who's walking in San Diego this year, when she first sent me her fundraising letter, she had said that she was going to ask for $44 donations, and then I changed it and told her that she needed to ask for $88. The reason that she is walking for the first time since 1999 when she walked for my mom is because 2 of her childhood best friends have died in the last year from triple-negative breast cancer, both of them at the age of 44. And so that is a meaningful and specific amount, 88. It obviously represents the combined age of the both of them. And that is the most frequent size donation that she has received so far. So this is from my fundraising from 2 years ago. So I just did a little chart of what the number of gifts that I got at each of those levels. So it's not hard to see that I asked people for a $50 donation. But what I love about this is you can also see that half of the people gave me half that amount, right? Half those people gave me $25, but half of those people gave me $100. If I had asked for $25, I would have seen a lot more for 25, a lot less for 100, and a lot less for 50. So just a reminder that you oftentimes are going to get what you ask for. Setting goals. I set a meaningful and challenging goal because I want my donors to really get behind it. Also because I tend to, as I said, get a little crazy with setting that fundraising goal, and I sort of back myself into the corner as far as how much time I actually have. But I do set some goals that make it easy for my donors to understand what I'm doing. Because this year was my 4th year participating, for those of you who have participated in the 3-day before, I always recommend that you increase your goal a little bit each year. But for those of you who are just starting off, this is something for you to aspire to for next year. But I determine how much to ask from people based on what my goal is and how much more money I would need from each donor in order to give me that money. So I included this last year. I said if every donor from last year, so every donor from 2 years ago, gives just $12 more this year, we'll raise $10,000. Will you give $87 this year to help end breast cancer and ensure that together we raise more money in a single fundraising attempt than we ever have before? So if you see the language, it's very specific for me. I say we. I include them in this effort so that it's not just my goal, but it's our goal. And that's been really helpful for me of making the goal something specific and something that includes them that they can really kind of rally behind. I post frequent updates on Facebook thanking my donors. That is how I primarily myself have used social media, is as a way to really kind of acknowledge, thank, and recognize my donors. I give a report on where I'm at with my goal. Again, if you have a very condensed and shortened period of time for your goal, it's really fun to do this because you'll see that your, like your Facebook friends are really engaged in what you're doing. Again, if you're not on Facebook, you can send this out via email. It's not just something that has to be done on social media. But I've had people donate twice when they see that I'm close. I did this for my sister because I wanted to be the person who got her to her goal. And I was lucky that it was just like a $27 donation. But I wanted, it's been really heartening to see just how engaged people are with my goal and how much they want to help me get there. I would also say consider increasing your goal as you get closer to your current fundraising goal. I know this to be true from my own personal experience as a fundraiser and as a potential donor, but it's very likely that people will give less or not at all if you're close to or at your goal. You never want to give someone an excuse to give less than you're asking for or to kind of back out of helping you accomplish your participation in this event. I've battled with my sister about this. I think she initially set her goal to 4,000. And then she kept, I told her from the beginning I wanted her to set her goal to 8,800. And mark my words, she will get there. She's very close to that. I'm not going to spoil that because I'm sharing some information about that in a few slides. But again, she has taken my advice and increased her goal at each point where she's hit it so that her donors and the people who still need to want to support her have something to aim for and don't kind of play that psychological game once they see that she's already there. Engaging my donors, I know a lot of people do this in the 3-day community. I see this on events. You can see it here in these photos. But, I invite my donors to share the names of people in their lives who have been impacted by cancer. It helps them feel included in my event participation, and it helps me stay connected to their reasons for donating. Again, I really try to make it a very inclusive experience so that they know that I'm not just after a donation, but I care about what compelled them to donate, what their reasons are, the people in their life who they're doing this on behalf of. And as I said here, whether they donate or not, I ask for their connection because I want them to know that it's not just about their financial support, but them being a part of something that's really important to me. I also engage my donors during the event weekend, not just by wearing something, but I update my Facebook status to dedicate portions of my participation to them or to their loved ones. So I'll say, as I have on the screen here, this next stretch of road is dedicated to my friends who have lost their mother or watched their mother fight through a breast cancer diagnosis. When I do Cycle for Survival, I ride a bike for 4 straight hours. And so every hour I will tag a different set of friends or donors to acknowledge the different audiences who are helping me out. And it's been really great because it's also really great encouragement. And I know, participating in something like the 3-day, it is very hard, and you're doing this for 3 days, and so engaging your participants like that also gives you an emotional boost to keep going, which is a really nice side benefit of doing this as well. This is probably my favorite slide, not because it's that interesting, but because I think it's the most important piece of advice that we have to offer you with fundraising, like getting a lot of money in a short period of time. After you set your deadline, and again, as I said, for some of you, it's just going to be driven based on, the first day of your walk, but you need to map out when you're going to do your follow-ups. It's really important to make sure that you don't drop the ball on connecting with people and reminding them that they still need to do. I always recommend that people should plan on doing at least 3 follow-ups. And at this point, again, like for some of you, you can do a follow-up tomorrow. You can do one for the halfway point between now and when your event is, and you can do one the night before your event. It's just really important that you're sending follow-ups. I always say a no is not a no until you are told no. I can't many people have reached out to me and donated at the last minute who have said, I thought your walk was in 1 week, or, you know, I thought I had more time, or I thought I'd already donated, or, you know, I mean, the excuses are endless, and they're all very valid reasons because we're busy and there's a lot of things going on, but the follow-ups really help people when they need it. I like to recognize that asking more than once may seem uncomfortable, but people are busy and they genuinely need their reminders, and no one is going to donate if they don't want to. So please just keep all of those things in mind. I also, like, when I get kind of to that last follow-up, I give people an out. I recognize that it just may not be in the cards this year for people to donate, and that I can completely understand and appreciate that, but I still give them an opportunity to be engaged in my event experience and ask them for that, the reason, you know, if there's anybody for them in which I can participate in memory of or in honor of, and I do still include them in that event experience on that actual weekend. So I want to show you another geeky graph of showing you sometimes from when I did the events 3 years ago I sent out my first letter on February 7th, and I got about 21, 22 donations within the first 2 days. I did another follow-up email on the 25th, which is when I got my second highest number of donations, with about 10. And then I sent out one more final reminder the day before the event. You guys, look at that, 26 donations the day before my event. I got far more donations that day than any other time that I did it. And I can guarantee you that for most of those people, that was about the third or fourth time that they had been asked. So again, if you take nothing else away from this, look at how much people are driven by a deadline, and your deadline of, you know, maybe even if you set a deadline 1 week out from your event, it may not mean much to them until you send them an email and say, I am literally packing my bags right now, this time tomorrow, I will be walking my first day of the Susan G. Komen 3-Day. Please donate if you haven't yet. Here is a link to my donation page. Please consider making a donation of at least $50 to help me raise $1,000 in the last day before I walk. So it's absolutely possible. And again, people are really driven by those deadlines. So now, once you've received a donation, there's still a lot that you can do to help keep your participants engaged in what you're doing, and also to keep them as donors beyond just this 1 year. I always send an immediate acknowledgement via email as soon as I get a donation, and I always let them know that they'll get another thank you after the event. To me, I even like this as a donor to know that, you know, someone has received the notification that I did donate to them. But sending an immediate acknowledgement, again, is another point of contact with your donor that helps them stay involved in what you're doing. Again, I've said this a few times, if you're on Facebook or Twitter, you can acknowledge your donor there. It's a great way to publicly thank your donors, but it's also a great way to pick up donors who you may not be in contact with or have an email address for, who will want to support what you're doing. It's happened a lot to my sister, that people have she's not, in her mind, friends enough with them to ask them for money, but once she's kind of come out on Facebook with what she's doing, they have made donations to her. So that's another benefit to doing the acknowledgments on Facebook. Update any tracking that you're doing of your fundraising performance. It helps next year, again, like when you have to figure out your fundraising goal and how much to ask your previous donors for, you have access to that kind of information within your participant center. But if you just make sure that you download that information in some way, you can do all sorts of analysis in Excel. This is definitely, like, I would say number 10 on the priority list right now out of a list of 1 to 10, but it is really good for you to just make sure that you're keeping track of this stuff. Speaking of Facebook, we want to just point out a few things. Again, not everyone is on social media. Not everyone likes to be asked for money via social media. Remember the importance of making it personal. When I was sharing this point with a colleague of mine, she said, you know, not only does not everyone like to be asked for money via social media, but people, sometimes you're not asking. I made this point earlier before. Sometimes you're just putting up a post. You're not even making an action or an ask in that. So not everyone likes to just see those posts on there and not know what they're supposed to do with it. News feeds are full and things pass by really quickly. We see that happen all the time. I'm sure most of you have experienced that as well. Facebook and other social channels should be one of several ways in which you are doing your fundraising. And as I said, it's a great place for acknowledgement and inclusion. It's a great way to engage the people in your life over what you're doing and to get them involved and excited for what you're doing today and the progress that you're making with your fundraising and your training. I want to share a little bit of a Facebook fundraising success story. This is my sister in the middle from a really, really long time ago. You can probably tell by her hairstyle. I did not tell her that I was going to put this up here, but so she registered on March 19th, and she started fundraising by sending out a personal email to each individual on May 22nd. She met her $2,300 fundraising minimum on the 24th, so it took her 2 days to meet her fundraising minimum. She did a great job with her letter, and she has a very compelling story. You know, as she puts in here, this is Linda, me, and Kelly in high school. Both of my dear friends died in the past 18 months, both at age 44. Both have triple-negative breast cancer. They had 5 children between them, ages 5 to 18. They are the reason Tricia Jansen and I will walk 60 miles in the Susan G. Komen San Diego Breast Cancer 3-Day in November. They're why I'm leaving right now in the dark for a 4.5-hour, 17-mile training walk. They're why so many of you have made generous donations, have sent me the most encouraging messages, even mercifully joined me on my dull as heck, you know, such what she says, training walks. As I enter the final 6 weeks, I ask those of you who are so moved to help fund research, support those in treatment, and prevent another family from the brutal heartbreak Kelly's and Linda's are going through. The link to donate is below. So she posted that on October 1st. She raised $1,200 in 1 day, and she raised an additional $2,800 in the first 9 days of October. Her current fundraising total as of the beginning of the day yesterday is $7,679. She had so many people who had said, I didn't know that you were doing this. I'm so glad that I can support you. Let me know if you want me to go for a training walk. Again, these are, you know, the very same people who she didn't feel like she was close enough friends with to be able to ask them to donate to her fundraising efforts. It's been really an overwhelming experience for her, but again, she has a very personal and compelling reason for doing it. It's heartbreaking what the kind of loss that she has experienced from, you know, 2 women who are 44 and who have, you know, so many children between the 2 of them, 5 children. It's heartbreaking. But participating in this event is giving her something. Every day she keeps these women with her in her life by participating in this event, which has been really great for her. So she has about 1,100 to go before she reaches her goal that I've set for her in my mind, and I'm sure she's going to get there. I'm going to turn it over to Susan to talk a little bit about her fundraising success story with Facebook as well. Susan, can you come off mute?
Hi. Yes, my story is a little bit similar to Molly's sister, but you know, I've been doing this year after year since 2007. I registered for the San Diego 3-Day in December of last year, and immediately I send out my fundraising letters, and I do that via email the first go-round. Like Molly said, I really like for that first one to be to my past donors, to maybe people that I've connected with since I participated, and I'm comfortable enough asking you know, very personally with them. And I met my fundraising minimum of $2,300 in May. I did install the Facebook app, so periodically I would get a donation, and then, you know, the Facebook app adds a little push, pushes something out saying that you got another donation, and then inevitably I'd get a couple of more just from that little thing from the Facebook app. Back I decided that I really wanted to set my goal at 5,000. This is the 10th year that I'm involved with a 3-day. That's the most I've ever raised in a year. I've always exceeded my minimum, but I've never exceeded it by this much. And last week I decided that that was going to be my push. It was 30 days out, which I felt was a significant number. Being 1 month out, people really, it's on their mind. We're obviously in the middle of Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And I did this only on Facebook. You can see my post that Molly put. 30 days from today, I'll be walking 60 miles to help end breast cancer. I'm about $1,500 short of my $5,000 fundraising goal. This is my 10th year being involved, and I'm proud to walk for so many incredible women and men. And then I outline, you know, if I break it down by the number of Facebook friends I have, if 100 donate 15 or if 50 donate 30, a little bit goes a long way. And I didn't want to make this amount unreasonable. For a lot of people, I do a bigger ask when I do my letters, and I do base it on what they've done in the past. But this one I wanted to be manageable. I not only hit my goal. Today I'm actually $500 over my goal because somebody just donated $43 to get me to my $5,500. But it really made a difference when I went in and I thanked people individually. It started a conversation on the thread. More people chimed in. And then when I posted the next day that I was only $300 short, I hit my goal and exceeded it within 20 minutes. And people are really generous, and they do jump in. And I always find that when you are this close to the event, it's a great time for some of these last-minute pushes. It's on people's mind, like I said. And it also, you know, people can absolutely have you walk for them, or people do want to come train with you. I have a whole long list of people that I'm walking for now because of this push that I did on Facebook. And for me, that's meaningful. I do send out handwritten thank you notes to every single person who donates. So I know Molly says she does them via email. I get them both ways. Sometimes I'm just kind of old-fashioned in that regard. And I know that my donors like it. And then I do send out a recap at the end, because if you do decide that you want to participate again, you're going to want those donors to want to come back and be on your journey with you as well.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, I mean, again, you know, we're going to talk a little bit. I'm going to turn it over to Liz in just a moment to talk about some other fundraising tools that you have. But we're at the point, again, where you need to be more focused and specific with your fundraising that you are doing because you do have such a short period of time. So we're going to talk about some of the other tools, but again, some of the best tactics you have are following up with people. You know, again, we hear a lot. My friend and coworker Gayla was just reminding me, you know, we hear a lot of like, I already asked everyone I know. You may have asked everyone you know, but did you follow up with everyone who you originally asked? And again, I can't stress enough that a no isn't a no until you've heard a no, or until obviously your event has come and gone and people have taken absolutely no action. But I want to also just kind of illustrate one other point. There's no chart for this, unfortunately, but you know, this year during my participation for Cycle for Survival, I did an ask to 339 people. I was really kind of surprised by that when I took a look at my data to see, again, like how many people I had reached out to and everything. But I don't say only, but out of those 339 people, I had 215 donors. So it was a 63% response rate, which is why it's so important to expand who you're asking and how many people you're asking. I also want to point out that my average donation size was $78. I don't know people who can give, you know, $250 donations, $500 donations, $1,000 donations. So when I raised that money, that $10,000, and this year that nearly $17,000, it was because I asked so many people who were willing to give me those donations. So $78 was the average donation size, and $50 was the most frequent donation amount. So really digging deep into who you're asking is going to be really helpful. All right, I know we have just about 7 minutes left, so I'm going to turn it over to Liz to talk really quickly. At this point, I'm certain most of you know about the Participant Center and the Fundraising App, but Liz, do you want to take a couple minutes just to talk about that?
Definitely. Next slide. So you're going to log into your Participant Center page. Once you've logged into your page, there is on the left-hand side a black bar. There we go. Underneath, and there's a fundraising tab. You can click on fundraise, and then right underneath that will be a link to install your Facebook app. So you'll need to actually be on the same, know your Facebook login, be logged into your Facebook page. And so this installs the Facebook app that you can, it'll update automatically. You can send an individual ask. You can also, another tool is to download on your phone the 3-day fundraising app so that you can send text messages to people, as well as, and here we go, pictures of the mobile fundraising app. This is a really great tool because not everybody has an email address or knows them on Facebook. So, but this also works for Facebook and emails. So one-stop shop, the fundraising app. It is the Susan Komen 3-day fundraising app. It's a free app that you can download to your phone. I've used it and found it really helpful. Another thing with the Facebook app, I know Molly had mentioned that your pages go away pretty quickly. The feeds disappear. I have actually used sending private messages as my last resort, letting people know, hey, I'm walking and you had mentioned that you wanted to donate. Here is my link again. Please go to my page and donate right away. So those are some of the tools that I have found really helpful.
Great. Thank you. I want to reiterate again that, you know, your coaches, for those of you who are doing Dallas, that's Liz who is just speaking, and Stacy is our coach for San Diego, but we have a lot of resources that are allocated to helping support all of our markets, and these are our wonderful coaches who have a lot of fundraising experience. So please, even though you're in the final stretch here, these are the people that you can reach out to. We did a quick poll of our team yesterday for some last-minute fundraising tips and ideas. Again, with this idea of raising a lot of money in a short period of time. Ask friends if they work for a company that offers a matching gift. I just heard from someone that Johnson & Johnson actually does a 3-to-1 match. So there are companies out there who have really amazing matching gift programs. Send an email out to everyone, including donors who have given and those who still need to donate, providing an update on your training, how close the event is, remind them of your fundraising goal, thank everyone who has donated already, and let others know that there's still time to give. So this is just like a general update to everyone, but it's really a fundraising ask, but it's disguised as an update. Give a nudge via Facebook Messenger to those who have said that they donate but they haven't yet. The bonus for this is you can actually see who's read your message. I had a lot of people this year who, you know, Facebook is amazing because you get to reconnect with all of these people in your life that you know, may not have normally been back in touch with. I don't have email addresses for all of those people, but I was able to send them a message and tell them that I was doing this event and wanted their support, and if they were willing to give me a donation, would they please send me their email address. So it was great because I sort of pre-qualified them and gave them a heads up before they even gave me their email address. Inspire creative giving by having fun with math. You know, there are a lot of different ways that you can do this, but I need 5 $50 donations in the next 5 hours. Who has $25 to celebrate that there are only 25 days until my 3-day? I want to raise $1,000 in 10 days. Will you be one of my $100 donors? Again, the limit on something like this is just your creativity. You can do anything that you can dream up of with this mass fundraising. Again, maximize Facebook, provide frequent updates related to where you're at with your goal, tag thank you messages to your donors to inspire more donations from some of your donors who have already donated and people who still need to donate. Offer a small gift for the person who gets you to your goal, and then just watch your supporters race to win it. Ask for donations from any businesses that you frequent, includes your doctors, your dentists. Check with businesses in your area who are supporting Breast Cancer Awareness Month to see if they would be willing to donate to you as well. Have an impromptu fundraising event, you know, a car wash or a garage sale is something that can be organized in less than a week's time. And again, send out one more last chance final email the night before your event. As you saw in that geeky chart that I provided, you'd be surprised how many people wait until the very, very last second. So that's a lot of material that we've covered in the hour, and I know we have a few minutes before we're out of time. So Liz, can I turn it over to you to kind of toss some questions our way that have come up from the crowd here?
Definitely. We've had a few questions, and anyone else, please feel free to ask them. One of the questions was, it says you're asking for donations the day before the event. This participant thought the deadline was the Friday before.
Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead. Go.
Nope. Was I interrupting you? Because you can go ahead if you want.
Go for it, Molly.
Okay, so you need to have that cutoff in order to be able to print your credential at home, and Stacy, Susan, and Liz, feel free to correct me if I say anything out of place, but you need to have the donations in by that point in order to be able to print your credential at home. Otherwise, you need to come and see me, actually, on Friday morning at late check-in, where you can print your credential there at that point. You also have the ability, if you do reach your fundraising minimum between that Friday before your event and the Thursday night, to call your coach, and they can help you avoid late check-in as well. Did I lie on any of that?
No, ma'am, that was perfect.
Okay.
And just to remind anybody who's on the phone is, yes, you can. We will have plenty of printers and people to assist you if you need to print your credentials on Friday morning at late check-in. So don't think, oh, I have to do it at home. We have plenty of printers and people to help you.
Exactly.
The other one was how to get the Facebook app, and we covered that. Did that answer your question, Michelle? Yes, she said it did. Great, thank you. And if you need downloading it still, give us a call at the 800 number. Any of the coaches will be able to help you with that, specifically Stacy, who is online as well. Any other questions out there?
All right. Well, look at that. We are exactly on time for taking up an hour. Thank you to everyone who has been on tonight's fundraising webinar. We are so appreciative of everything that you're doing and hope that you have found this content helpful. If you have any follow-up questions, or even if you just want to share some of your own fundraising successes that you experience after hopefully taking and implementing some of this fundraising advice, please let us know about that too. We always like to hear that you're getting advice that is helpful. Good luck with your fundraising. I know you can do it. We're really excited for you guys, and we look forward to seeing you on the 3-day in just a couple weeks or a few weeks. So thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful night.